All right, we'll call this meeting to order, and July 11th, Maricopa County Planning and Zoning Commission, we'll do a roll call.
Commissioner Arnett, Commissioner Curley,
Somebody's in the pool or drinking something or.
No, that was me pouring water.
All right, pouring water. Thanks for clarifying.
Commissioner Curley,
Here.
Commissioner Dan Zeisen,
Here.
Commissioner Landau, Commissioner Lawrence,
Here.
Commissioner Montoya, Commissioner Swart,
Here.
Commissioner Schlosser,
Here.
Vice Chair Lindblom,
Here.
Chairman Hernandez. Vice Chair Lindblom, we have a quorum.
All right, so I will run this meeting today with the absence of Chairman Hernandez. We, well, I guess we'll jump into just a matter of business. We made a few changes to the agenda. Do you want to just cover that real quick, Aaron?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Agenda item 1, Z 2022-166, and agenda item 2, MCP 2023-005 are continued to July 25th for the first case. That's not correct? Okay. And August 8th to the second one? So agenda item 1, July 25th, agenda item 2, August 8th. And then agenda item 4, Z 2024-023 is on the regular agenda.
Sounds great. And I did forget, I probably should read the announcements for the meeting. So I'll read these chairman's announcements. This meeting's been noticed in accordance with open meeting laws under Arizona Revised Statute Section 38-431. These agendas are available within 24 hours of each meeting in the Maricopa County Planning and Development Office, also available on the Planning and Development website 1 week prior to the hearing at www.maricopa.gov/planning. The staff reports prepared for each agenda item shall become a part of the permanent record for each case. And with respect to the hearing process, cases will be considered in the order they appear on the agenda unless otherwise agreed to by the commission. For each case, the applicant will be given a set amount of time to present. Anyone wishing to speak on a particular case shall fill out a speaker's card for in-person attendance or raise your hand within the GoToWebinar. And the amount of time allowed for speaking shall be at the discretion of the commission chair. Staff will provide the chairman with the names of persons who have registered and noted desire to comment, and those registered participants who have raised their hand. The chairman will call on each named participant one at a time, and the chairman will conduct the hybrid in-person and virtual public hearing according to the bylaws and according to the rules established by the chairman regarding public comment. Votes will be done by roll call vote only, and the chairman will verbally identify the specific members responsible for all motions and seconds. So yeah, thank you. Sorry for jumping a little bit out of here. So let's do an approval of the June 13th, 2024, unless someone has changes that need to be made. Hearing no comments, we'll approve those for the record. And then now we jump into the staff announcements.
Yes, yeah. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, agenda items 1 and 2 are to be continued. Z 2022-166, Stig LLC Trucking in District 5 is continued by the applicant to July 25th. No actions necessary by the commission. And MCP 2023-005, known as the Parking Trailer and RV Storage in District 4, applicant has requested that be continued to August 8th. No actions necessary by the commission.
Great. All right, we'll move into the consent agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, there is a single item remaining on consent, that is Z 2024-006, known as Sun CRV Park in District 4. This is a special use permit for RV spaces in the Rural 43 zoning district on 2 acres, approximately 1.25 miles south of the southwest corner of Vulture Mine Road and Natural Arc Trail in the Wickenburg area. There's no known opposition. The recommendation in paragraph 10 is for approval, subject to conditions A through J. This RV park is to accommodate seasonal workers at the resort, the Rancho Caballeros Resort, I believe is the name of it. It's a large golf community with several related resort uses, and this is simply to accommodate their seasonal workers.
Okay.
No known opposition.
Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on that? If not, discussion for the commission, or I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Schlosser.
make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Schlosser. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Who was that?
Commissioner Lawrence?
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lawrence. We have a second. All in favor? We'll do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Curley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dan Zeisen,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Yes.
Commissioner Montoya. We can't hear you.
She's shaking her
You
head
must be,
yes,
you
and
must
a
be
thumbs
muted,
up.
but she's shaking her head yes. Thank
And a
you.
Thumbs up. All right.
Commissioner Swart,
Yes.
Commissioner Schlosser,
Yes.
Chairman Lindblom.
Yes.
Chairman, we have a motion recommending approval of the consent agenda by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. And yeah, for the record, Commissioner Montoya joined the meeting prior to that item, the consent item number 3. All right, let's go ahead and move into our regular agenda item, case number Z 2024-023. I understand this was under consent, and then we've received a little bit of opposition, and so we've moved that to the regular consent. Is that correct? All right. What is the question?
I want to remind you under the bylaws, if an item's on consent, even if you receive opposition, unless someone is here to speak, bylaws would allow you to continue to handle it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And do we have someone that is here to speak virtually or in person? If we don't have anybody, I'm perfectly happy keeping that on consent and addressing it unless there's an objection by the commission.
Yes, this is Commissioner Montoya. I'd like the item to be moved from consent to the regular agenda.
What's the reasoning for that?
I have some concerns and I have
Okay.
questions.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to do that. We'll be happy to open that up for discussion. So thank you for pointing that out, and let's go ahead and move it to regular agenda, and we'll I guess have a presentation by staff. Is that what we want to do, or do we want to just, okay, let's just do that. Let's have you present it, and then we'll give an opportunity to the applicant. We'll address some issues and hopefully get through it. So thank you.
Chairman Lindblom and members of the commission, agenda item 4 is for KC 2024-023. Is a rezone request from rural 43 SUP to C3 CUPD for the Rancho Ochoa events facility located on Broadway Road and 67th Avenue in District 5. Next slide. The rezone would supplant the existing special use permit for the Rancho Ochoa venue to permanently entitle the site. The existing SUP was approved in 2021 for 20 years until 2041. This zone change would alleviate an existing violation for not complying with the prior conditions of that SUP. It should be noted that the existing precise plan development approved as part of the SUP will still govern the site, and that if changes are to be made to the site, they would have to amend that plan development. Otherwise, the site will be equivalent to what the board approved in 2021. Next slide. Staff is recommending the commission adopt a motion recommending the Board of Supervisors approve Z 2024-023, subject to conditions A through J for the following reasons. C3 zoning is appropriate for the site with the planned SR30 freeway running directly to the south. This will foster higher intensity redevelopment of the area in line with the C3 zoning district standards. Conditional zoning has been offered and accepted by the applicant to agree to pre-annex the site into the city of Phoenix within 5 years of approval to obtain access to municipal services. And this will also allow for further review of the site at that time if such an approval is not done. With that, I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions, Mr. Landis, at this time?
I have some questions. This is Commissioner Montoya.
All right, Commissioner Montoya, you've got the floor.
So since we approved the special use permit, have we received complaints since then?
Chairman Limbaugh, Commissioner Montoya, yes, there have been several complaints that have been received regarding the site's usage. That prompted a violation case to be opened in January of 24 that related to several of the conditions of the prior SUP that were not being complied with. The zone change would effectively eliminate those conditions, which would allow the site to come into compliance.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, we'll, Mr. Lau, okay, you're good. We'll go ahead and I was asking Mr. Lowry if he would like to come up, but that is a good presentation by staff. We've seen this before. Let's go ahead and open up for discussions. I guess we'll close. We have no public comment, correct? Do we have anybody that's wishing to speak on this? Okay. We'll close public comment and we'll open this up to the commission to speak if there's any discussions that would like to be made amongst each other.
So this is Commissioner Montoya again. Thank you for moving it to the regular agenda item. So back in 2021, when we heard this case initially, it was continued because we had neighborhood opposition. And so I suggested that the applicant have a neighborhood meeting before it coming back to us at the commission. That neighborhood meeting was held. I don't live too far from this particular site. And I remember that it was during the NBA finals and the Suns were in the finals. And I decided that it was more important to go to this community meeting than to watch the Suns play in the playoff games or in the finals. And so I went and I was the only person that showed up. And I was assured by the applicant that a notice had gone out to the community and sat down, had a lengthy discussion with the owner and the owner's representatives and was assured that all of the issues relating to dust, to loud noise, to loud music going beyond 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning, that all of that they would comply with this. So I'm really concerned that they agreed to do all of this. I went ahead and supported the motion to approve. Their special use permit was granted up for 20 years up to 2041. And so here we are 2.5 years later, and now they're asking to be rezoned from rural to commercial. This particular lot is located in between residential homes, so it's not exactly like at an intersection. What also concerns me is the fact that it will alleviate, if we pass this, it will alleviate the existing complaints because now it's commercial. And that really concerns me. The other thing is that, you know, they talk about the highway coming. Yes, it is. It's in the master plan, but there's no funding for it. And it's going to be 15, 20 years before we see that section built. So I don't quite see the urgency to move it from what it exists now to commercial. And the other thing that concerns me is that now they're also requesting more events. I think now up to 40 events per year. And the noise complaints are very serious. I don't live that far away from there. I live in a neighborhood where I had a neighbor for 2 years who had loud parties at least once a month, was always calling the police at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I can only begin to imagine what those neighbors who live nearby have to go through with this existing facility there. I think that they need to comply. That would be very important. And I'm not comfortable having heard from at least a couple of, one neighbor called me to let me know that they were submitting a letter, and then another member of a neighborhood association nearby also contacted me. And so, I have some real concerns about this particular property wanting to be rezoned commercial, and I don't understand the urgency.
Thank you, Commissioner Montoya. Commissioner Montoya, the calls that you received, the people that made the complaints, what was their proximity to the property?
One lady who called me lives, I would say maybe 2 houses down.
Okay,
And then the other one lives in the neighborhood association right north of it, immediately abutting,
all right, thank you. Other thoughts? Chairman Slosser, or
Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman?
Slosser? Old habits.
I have a question to staff. So this property, most of us were here when we granted the SUP, approved it, and now they're back for zoning. Can you sort of explain the difference from the county standpoint as far as the approved SUP and if we grant this zoning?
Chairman Lindblom, Member Schlosser, the SUP implemented several conditions in regards to how the site should be developed through that plan development. The zone change is not specific to the events venue site. This would allow them essentially more flexibility in developing the site into something that may not actually be the event center. There's a few use limitations on the CUPD overlay, but otherwise there's the possibility that this doesn't continue to be the event center. It will allow them more flexibility to develop something more in line with what we feel is appropriate zoning for the community, given the future most likely development of SR 30 nearby.
If
Yes,
I could
sir.
add, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
Commissioner Slosser, the other thing is there are certain operational limitations that can be placed on an SUP because it's site plan specific, use specific. So you can put conditions that apply to an operation such as business hours and sound mitigation. You cannot make those same types of operational conditions on a zoning district. So the zoning district can have an overlay, a CUPD overlay that can limit the entitled uses and that can alter and deviate the development standards, such as setbacks, wall heights, and buffering requirements. But it essentially would remove the conditions of special use permit approval that limit, that speak to sound and hours of operation specifically, and crowd sizes. Those issues are not controlled by the zoning district. They are controlled by a special use permit.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And having said that, all that, Mr. Gerard, you still believe C3 zoning is appropriate for the site? That's the staff's opinion.
The staff report speaks to staff certainly believes that the C3 zoning is ultimately appropriate for the site.
Okay.
Whether or not it is premature at this time is a question you might want to consider.
Okay.
The SUP could be amended. The conditions could be amended. The SUP is entitled now for validity period of, I believe it's 15 more years or 18 more years. That's about the time that the freeway is likely to be planned for construction or under construction. It may be an easier decision to make
All right.
at that time.
Thanks. Is there any other questions or comments from the commission? Mr. Lowry, would you like to?
Thank you,
Few
Mr.
words.
Chairman, members.
You bet.
just wanted to insert myself just for a couple comments, just because I think the dialogue has kind of gone into sort of the reasoning for the SUP. So again, I know we reviewed some of those letters. Some of those letters were related to sort of animal abuse and some rodeo related issues. Again, this SUP, if denied today, would, we would have 17 more years to continue to do what they're doing today. Now, I think it is important to note that the exhibit on the board today shows the SR30. The SR30 has, yes, been in plans for a long time. The alignment is just kind of south of this property. The interchange for the SR30 is going to be right at 67th Avenue. There's no doubt of that. We've represented numerous property owners along the Broadway corridor for many years, continue to represent property owners. ADOT is actively acquiring those properties just south of Broadway for future construction. Yes, there needs to be a final funding mechanism, to do full build out. But today they are actively acquiring properties today. So it's not a pipe dream. The freeway is not 20, 30 years away. And so as we look at planning and zoning, a lot of times we think about the future. What is going to happen in the future? And so I think this landowner is looking at doing improvements to this property to tackle some of the dust issues. Some of those improvements are costly. They're looking at potentially putting a building on there to have some of these activities on the inside. So having some of the activities inside will help mitigate some of the noise. But when you go to spend millions of dollars on improvements on a property with temporary zoning, it doesn't necessarily bode well with the banking industry or the finance industry when you're asking for a loan secured by a property that has temporary entitlements on it, meaning that even in 17 years, hey, we spend a couple $1 million on a building, we bring the events inside, and then now all of a sudden the event venue permit goes away. So they're looking to the future, not only to provide better financed improvements on the site today for the venue program, but also looking in the future at a intersection of two arterials, Broadway and 67th, two major arterials in this growing area that will have an adjacent off-ramp to a freeway. So commercial viability in the future makes a lot of sense at this intersection. The other corners are built out. There is some commercial on the other corners, but I think this particular corner could be the #1, assembled with the other properties, could be the #1 commercial and employment hub at a major interchange. If you think about 303 going through the West Valley 20 years ago, it was all farm fields. It was agricultural uses running up and down the 303. When the 303 was built, you drive through Glendale today, you see industrial warehouses, employment uses all up and down there. So this will change in the future. The area will transition into densities and intensities, and I think this application today is just setting forth the future plans.
Thank you, Mr. Lally.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. Bill Lally, Tiffany Bosco, 2525 East Camelback Road, representing the applicant today.
Thank you, appreciate that. Any other thoughts, or I'll entertain a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Dan Zeisen.
Go ahead, Commissioner Dan Zeisen.
First of all, I've wanted to say this for a while, but I want to commend staff on these reports. Whenever there's a question, if you're reading these reports, they're very detailed, and I appreciate that these reports have basically everything in them. I have a question for staff. So some of these stipulations that are with the SUP go away, but then you added, I think, some other stipulations, and I kind of want to know the timing on that. These applications that need to be in for like the water service, and that, does that happen after the zoning, or does that have to happen before the zoning gets fully approved, or what's the timing on those?
Chairman Lindblom, Member Dan Zeisen, the site has an approved plan development, but they've, to my knowledge at least, have never applied for or received a building permit for many of the improvements on site, and that was supposed to be part of the special use permit back in 2021, and at that point my understanding is that was just not done. It is my understanding that as part of obtaining a permit to do some of these site improvements, that at that point we would have these requirements come in for water, for traffic control and things like that. So I do believe, and I may be incorrect, that the violation itself would not be ultimately resolved until such improvements are done in compliance with the plan development. But even if not, to obtain a permit for some of the improvements that the applicant wants, they would have to do some of these site improvements as part of that process.
Part of the process is, so if we, after they get the zoning?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Dan Syson, that's correct. If they get the zoning before they continue with any events, they need to address these conditions of zoning approval unless it's specified otherwise in the condition. If they do not get the zoning, they still need to obtain necessary construction permits for improvements that have occurred on site. And I can't speak to that specific because I'm not aware of unpermitted structures being used at this time.
So if this zoning does get approved, and these steps aren't met, are they allowed to operate?
No.
Okay, appreciate that. I think my opinion here, and there's a lot of stuff to flush out. And I don't know when to make a motion or whatever, but I really think that this thing should be continued to August 22 to flush out some of these things. That's just my opinion. And that's what I'd be a vote yes on. So I don't know if we need to entertain a motion for that or what.
Mr. Gerard has a comment regarding that.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Dan Syson, Commissioners, and just to clarify my last comments, they can operate today if they comply with the conditions of the special use permit approval. So if this special use permit is approved and we rescind the SUP as part of that, they must adhere to these new conditions. There are certain things that have to be in place before they can operate. There are certain operational conditions that they need to meet now to operate under the special use permit. They're different sets.
Commissioner Denzeisen, is it all right if we ask the applicant? I would like to ask the applicant what their thoughts are on a continuance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. And to answer Commissioner Dan Seisen's request for a continuance, I think there is some new information in the record. I think that goes to sort of the SUP related issues. And I don't think that the new issues that were brought really go towards the zoning case of commercial zoning. It really comes down to, is the applicant going to do everything that they said they're going to do on the plan of development that's in there today? And I think the answer is yes. They have, as Darren has articulated, they have to do that whether they have the SUP in place or the commercial zoning enacted. The plan of development in the record has to be followed through. They have to pull permits. They have to get the site legal. So continuing the zoning case today, I think, doesn't change the trajectory of them bringing the site in compliance. So we would not be in supportive of a continuance today. I think we make a commitment to Commissioner Dan Syson to continue to urge our client and pressure them that please move forward expeditiously on all of these outstanding items. I think they will also be probably much more encouraged to do so if the commercial zoning was moving forward and they have a better opportunity to finance some of these things under a permanent zoning.
Thank you. We've got legal talking to staff right now, so we're going to clarify some things, I think.
Just to repeat an item that Joel already had indicated, there's a POD, a plan of development associated with this zone change. But if the zoning is approved, a totally different POD can come through. That would be administratively reviewed and approved by staff.
Okay.
Just a clarification.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question of the applicant real quick.
Okay, Mr. Lally.
I think you answered, but I'm not. So what the chairman asked you was in lieu of a continuance, you'd rather have an up or down vote, correct?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Schlosser, yes, I think our intent today is to move forward as quickly as possible towards an action, whatever that action is, so that the applicant, the owners, can have some certainty as to what the future of the entitlements are and start moving forward towards improvement. So yes, today I would prefer an up or down vote versus a projected continuance.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's my opinion to let the applicants decide whether they want to vote or not and give it to them. But I think this commission has the ability to make whatever motions they want. And so I'm not going to sway one way or another. We'll let this kind of go how this commission wants it to go. I will entertain a motion. I haven't received a formal motion either for a continuance, and we can vote on that, or for approval. But my opinion is if the applicant wants a vote, I like to give them a vote. So that's my very subtle way of trying to influence a meeting.
This is Commissioner Montoya. If Commissioner Dansizen is prepared to make a motion to continue it, I'm prepared to support that motion.
I'll entertain any motion at this point, or I'll make one myself. I want to move forward. So
If the applicant wants an up or down vote, I mean, I like to move things forward too. I don't like to drag things on any longer. So I'm not going to make the motion to continue it.
thank
In
you.
that case, I make a motion to not approve case number Z2024023, Rancho Ochoa.
All right, we have a motion to not approve case Z 2024-023. Do I have a second for that? And if that doesn't pass, then we could vote again, correct? All right, I just want to make sure. We wouldn't vote again? We would need a new motion, yes. Okay, I just want to make sure everyone understands.
And if I can explain my vote or my reasoning for it,
Yeah, let's just go with the motion, and then if we can get a second, then we can get into discussions at that point. So do we have a second? If we don't have a second, I'll take another motion. Yeah, either to approve it or deny it, or to continue it. We can go three ways, guys. We can continue, we can approve, or we can deny.
I think that in the past, we always allow commissioners to explain why they're taking a position.
I will allow it at this point because no one's doing anything. So why don't you go ahead and explain why you want to do that? And I appreciate that, Commissioner Montoya, for you being diligent there. I was just trying to push it along, but let's hear it.
Yes. So, as I said earlier, when we approved this, there was opposition. And I went and met with the owners, and they assured me that they would take care of all the complaints. And they also came to us with information that they would improve the site, and that has not happened. And it almost appears as if because they got more complaints, now they're moving to rezone it to commercial. It's not in a corner. It's a lot in between residential homes. So it's not at 67th Avenue and Broadway. And so I just think that because I understand the changes that are taking place, with the freeway coming in 20 or 30 or 40 years. They just got this special use permit in 2021, and I don't understand, and I don't get the urgency to want to now rezone it to commercial. And I just think it's difficult for the people that live around it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. My understanding on this is this will continue to operate as a under an SUP for some time, 17 years, I think is what we said. Really, the question is whether we think this is appropriate. What we're being asked is whether this is an appropriate C3 use, and we've got to decide that today. But the event center continues to run, you know, and I think that's something that is worth thinking about.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Slasher.
and this is Commissioner Montoya and Commissioner Dansizen's district, but as they both know, this is my backyard as well. But the applicant, I guess to expand on Commissioner Montoya's concern why they need to do this now, something that didn't occur to me until Mr. Lally stood before us here was that I guess the rationale, from what I gather, is that by getting this rezoned instead of having the SUP, that they have that assurance, the assurance and the ability to go to their lenders to make those improvements. And if I understood Mr. Lally correctly, until they have that, that's not the case, even though they still have 17 years or whatever left. So that hadn't occurred to me, but maybe that's why they're doing it. I'm not sure.
I have a question for staff. This is Commissioner Montoya.
All right, Commissioner Montoya, go ahead.
Yes, can staff share with us what did they agree to do in terms of improvements when we approved the special use permit?
Chairman Limbaugh, Commissioner Montoya, the plan development that was approved in 2021 would be the sum of what they had agreed to do. And so the special use permit is precise plan development. If they had developed anything that wasn't what was shown in the site plan, I think on page 5 of 9, we would have had them amend the SUP at that time. And likewise in this case, this would be still considered to be kind of the plan development for the site. It's my understanding they would be able to obtain permits for this site plan without needing to do any other entitlements at this point. They can just go straight to permits for that.
Thank you.
I certainly can appreciate the thoughtfulness here of the commission. No one wants to impact neighbors and others in a way that they can't enjoy their use of their property. I've been on this commission a long time, and before I got on this commission, I went to a gentleman that had been on it, I think, for a bazillion years, and he told me that just listen to staff; they won't lead you astray. And I've done that for most of my time here on the commission. I think
Most of it.
Did you catch
Not
some
all
of
of
it? Yeah, I've gone against you guys a few times, but I certainly appreciate the time you've spent to try to address those needs. I know you take it really serious, and your recommendation to me is really it matters, and I think you're really diligent and have a really firm understanding in everything that you do. So we have a fairly strong recommendation for approval from staff, and I just wanted to point that out. I've got the applicant standing before me again. Would you like to say something, Bill, that may, Mr. Lowley, that may help us move along?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity, and a lot of great dialogue today. And I know this is a difficult one, and I think it sounds like there's a bit of a fear of what the obligations are and what won't happen potentially based on a track record. I will tell you that I've done a couple of these cases here, and if you look at page, I think it's page 9, the very last stipulation of your packet, staff has crafted a pretty unique stipulation that puts some timetables on the applicants, a 5-year timetable. So if the applicant, if you read it, if the applicant hasn't pursued annexation in the city of Phoenix, there is language in here that directs the county to evaluate whether or not this commercial zoning should be rescinded. So that's pretty strong language. You don't see that oftentimes in cities or counties with commercial zoning. Now, I believe that the commercial zoning is appropriate at this corner. But staff has gone the extra level of adding a stipulation that we're completely fine with, that holds our feet to the fire, holds the applicant's feet to the fire, the 5-year timeframe. And 5 years is not a long time. It really isn't. I mean, by the time you get through building permits and start building things and start working with the city of Phoenix on utilities, you could get to 5 years pretty quickly. So this clock, it will start ticking, or they continue to have the exact same use that's there today for 17 more years and continue to figure out how to work with the community on some of the compatibility issues. So, Mr. Chairman and members, I would just point to stipulation J and take a quick look at that. That's a pretty unique stipulation that does hold the applicant's feet to the fire. And so since there is some dialogue today about what the expectations are for the applicant, I think that should give the commission maybe a little bit more reassurance that the expectations are now and relatively quick in the future.
Yeah, I do appreciate you pointing that out. I also liked stipulation E that talks about changes and of the use of the property and it requiring a new submission in that event as well. So again, I commend staff for really thinking through these types of things and trying to come up with the things that that they think could or could not happen. So Commissioner Slosser?
I think stepping outside the box here and sort of summarizing this dialogue. I know it's an unwritten rule, but this is in Commissioner Montoya and Commissioner Dan Seisen's district. So the unwritten rule is if they want to make, I think we came to the conclusion that based on the applicant and the chair, that they don't want to make a motion to continue. We only have two options, so I would first defer to either of the District 5 commissioners to make a motion to approve or deny. And then I guess we go from there.
I support that.
That's a fair thing to do.
Yep. And you know, that's where my head is too. It's your district. And if you'd like to make a motion, you can. If you don't, I'm happy to make one, but to move this along. So entertaining any motion again from our commission.
So, Mr. Chairman, where are we at the first motion? Is that one done or?
We didn't get a second, so it died. It could be made again, but we're looking for a motion, hopefully, to move us forward or oppose it, and we'll go from that. We'll go again.
This is Commissioner Montoya. I will again make a motion to not approve case number Z 2024023 Rancho Ochoa.
Thank you. And we have a motion to not approve Z 2024-023 by Commissioner Montoya. Do I have a second? Okay, we don't have a second. And if that's the case, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve for Z 2024-023 as stipulated by staff, the conditions A through J. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Curley, I second.
Thank you. We have a second by Commissioner Curley, and we'll go ahead and call a roll call vote.
Commissioner Curley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dan Zeisen,
No.
Commissioner Lawrence, Commissioner Lawrence, Commissioner Montoya,
No,
Commissioner Swart,
Yes.
Commissioner Schlosser,
Yes.
Chairman Lindblom,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawrence, are you on the line? Chairman, we have a motion recommending approval by a vote of 4-2.
Thank you. Thank you, staff. Thank you, applicant. My hope is that they do continue to work with this community to create a great project. I do want to thank this commission. We're very different people, and we come here and we try to do the right things. And I just respect each of you greatly and your opinions. And so appreciate you and the opportunity to work with each of you. And today was kind of different with the way these motions went. And so thank you to each of you for your patience and grace as we went through that. We want to get it right. So having said that, we'll go to, is there any other items for to cover?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.